Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming this evening, looking so glamorous. Before handing over to IMOS Foundation trustee Gavin MacDonald, who's looking very glamorous himself there in a silver suit, and Member of Parliament Damien Collins, who has yet to arrive, I would like to thank the artist Dirk de Vries for his wonderful work. He's a member of the Folkestone Art Society, which has assisted in getting this show together. We've worked on a cooperative basis. And their main contribution was in toning down my introduction to the catalogue, which was very fierce and political. And they said, we can't have that, and toned it down, so it's now mellifluous. The Burlington hotel owner, Daniel San Giuseppe, has kindly offered us this room, and he's a most excellent man, I have to say, because he's done everything he can to help. And there are volunteers assisting with the exhibition and invigilating who've helped to put it on. These and there've been some wonderful sponsors, notably the Roger de Haan Charitable Trust, the European Commission representation in the UK, and the Folkestone Town Council. They're all heroes to my mind, and I'd like to give them a personal thank you as well as a formal one. And by the way, for those of you who have noticed a curiosity of spelling in the title of the exhibition, it is an obscure pun on the idea that Europe still lives. And now I'll invite Gavin to give a little talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, I gotta say, what a crowd, what a turnout, you guys are so great. I didn't know whether I was going to start with a poor Donald Trump impersonation or not. I had a couple of glasses of wine, so I thought kind of, what the hell. Hello, and welcome to the private view of this new IMOS Foundation exhibition, Still Lives of Europe, paintings by Dirk de Vries. The exhibition was conceived as a companion piece and a follow-up to a portrait of Europe which was exhibited at the Folkestone Triennial of 2014, 3 short years ago. But it's fair to say that the significance attached to Europe as a concept in the UK has changed a little bit in that time. In June last year, we narrowly voted to leave the European Union, a decision which seemed to surprise most of those who campaigned fervently for it, and as far as the public is concerned, seems to have delighted and dismayed in almost equal measure. Whether one believes that Brexit is setting the UK on a course to a bright, globalised free trade future, or returning us to the end of Empire 1950s, it's certainly true, to quote the poet W.B. Yeats, all is changed utterly. With the possible exception of David Davis, I thought Damien would be here to hear this, but he's not. And if he knows, he's not telling. Probably nobody really knows where the good ship Brexit is going to land us in 5 or 10 years' time. But I think that because history has a habit of confounding the rosiest of optimists, as well as the most baleful of pessimists, I think that neither the worst nor the best of the predictions are likely to come true, and that we'll find ourselves post-Brexit engaged in that most very British of activities, namely muddling along. What, though, of our relationship with Europe? Possibly the biggest mistake, I think, in debates surrounding Brexit is that leaving the EU is somehow the same as divorcing ourselves from the continent itself. But the last time I looked, our little island still sits some 20 miles off the coast of France, having somehow, post-Brexit, declined to unmoor itself to float off somewhere into the middle of the North Atlantic. Whatever global trade deals we're able to strike, European countries will still be by far our biggest trading partners. We will continue to eat Italian pasta, buy Swedish furniture, drive German cars, take Spanish holidays, even if the queue at customs takes a little longer. In short, we will still be Europeans. Where a portrait of Europe was a collection of individual character studies by a group of British artists, Still Lives of Europe is the work of one individual artist, Dirk de Vries. Appropriately, Dirk is an Englishman with a Dutch father, the country that invented and brought to perfection the still life genre in the 16th and 17th centuries. A still life is a work of art that depicts mostly inanimate subject matter, typically commonplace objects which may be natural or man-made. It's an exuberant source of painterly virtuosity, and it tends to celebrate the aesthetic over the merely illustrative. It can be a celebration of material pleasures such as food or wine, or a warning of the ephemerality of these pleasures and the brevity of human life. Still Lives of Europe consists of 28 paintings, one for each member state of the European Union, and each painting consists of a handful or a tableful of objects representative of that country. Some of these will evoke a glow of happy recognition. Who among us has not enjoyed a glass of red wine in Paris or a Guinness in Dublin without feeling that these simple pleasures are made more so simply by being in France or being in Ireland? Other places, Latvia perhaps, or Malta, may seem less familiar, but they offer the pleasures of discovery to the curious. I'd like to suggest that the appeal of Still Lives of Europe lies as much between these pictures, that is, the pictures considered as a collection, as it does in the individual pictures themselves. In this, the exhibition has a power to surprise that it shares with the collection of portraits. In comparing one with another, the familiar with the exotic, the sheer abundance, variety, the curiosity, and the charm of what it means to be European becomes apparent. If nothing else, Still Lives of Europe suggests to me that to eat one's way around the continent might be a productive way to spend a lifetime. As well as Dirk himself, I would like to echo Bryony's thanks to Daniel San Giuseppe of the Burlington Hotel for allowing us to use the Radnor Room, this beautiful room, as an exhibition space, and the redoubtable Michel Laroux, an Englishman despite his name, who in his role as factotum and general fixer has designed and printed the brochures, all the publicity material, transported and hung the paintings, and goodness knows what else. He's dressed very glamorously over there. Finally, of course, I'd like to thank Bryony, the founder and creative director of the IMOS Foundation. Those of you who are unfamiliar with Bryony's work need only travel along the coast as far as New Romney to see how her support of local artists and commitment to civic artwork has really made a difference in Kent. It was Bryony who conceived this project, and without her drive and imagination, it would not have come to fruition. Thank you, and with that, I was going to hand over to Damien to say a few words and formally open the exhibition. But in his absence...
He's just calling, actually.
Okay.
Knocked him out, have you? He's just calling.
Shall we wait to see if he's
Yeah,
just
we'll
round the
do
corner?
We're used
Can we have silence for our final speech, please?
Thank you, Rob. Yes, thank you for your patience at allowing this staggered approach to the speeches. Unfortunately, it took me rather over 3 hours to get out of London, but I'm very glad to be here. Although driving down the motorway, there was one of the most vivid rainbows I've ever seen, actually, above Folkestone. I didn't realised, I didn't know whether this was one of Lewis's installation pieces for the triennial tomorrow, being tested a day early, but it was certainly very striking, and it's fantastic to be here. And at this event again, 3 years on from the wonderful exhibition that Bryony organised in Sunflower House, again on the eve of the triennial, for her fantastic Portraits of Europe exhibition, with portraits of people from every member state of the European Union, including the UK. A wonderful symbol of the differences and what different Europeans share. Obviously, it's had a tremendous effect on people's attitudes towards Europe, and well beyond anything that I think Bryony could have expected. And it's wonderful to see that Bryony's reminded me that it was at that event 3 years ago that the start of the process of collecting these wonderful series of still lifes, again from every country of the European Union, came to bear as well. And I think the wonderful thing about still life art, so I'm going to claim to be an art critic, is that in almost every sort of country where there is a strong artistic movement, which is every country in the world, still life plays a part of artistic expression. And it reminds you that food is one of the great cultural identifiers. It's quite easy to spot the Irish picture, and probably and for many other countries as well, that certain types of drinks, the way bread is baked and presented, the way cheeses are made, many types of food come to symbolise the countries that they come from, and in the society in which we live in today are widely enjoyed and shared across Europe by people. We regularly eat food from lots of different European countries all the time, and we're always finding new things to delight and surprise us. And I think therefore this is an excellent exhibition of showing once again the wonderful diversity of Europe, the things that we have in common, the things that we enjoy about living in such an incredibly diverse continent in the world. There are not many other continents in the world where you have such incredible diversity within such a small geographical area, and that's one of the things that makes Europe very exciting. Now, I think hosting it tonight, marking the end of the third round of negotiations of Britain's withdrawal from the European Union, and the failure yet to commence the talks on trade, seems quite an appropriate moment to hold this exhibition. But also I think what it does do, and I think what it should provoke for everyone who enjoys it over the 9 weeks that it's here in the Burlington during the triennial, is the challenge we have now is not just to enjoy some wonderful art, but also to think about its meaning, and to think about the fact that Britain will leave the European Union in 2019. That is what the government is negotiating, what was voted for in the referendum. But the United Kingdom will not leave the continent of Europe. We will still be a country within the continent of Europe. And we have to think about what our relationship with Europe will be, what we want that relationship with Europe to be. And the thing that I think here, particularly here in Folkestone, that we should think about is that our relationship with Europe is born of our geography, the fact that we are close to it, the fact that we have been a trading route and a commercial route, a route for people to travel and go on holiday and visit, and a gateway for people to visit this country. All those things will continue. The fact that when Lid was a great centre of textiles, that we sold textiles to the Dutch and we brought hops back to make beer in return for the proceeds of that trade. We've always worked with Europe, we've always traded with Europe. And I think the very strong relationships that exist through the town twinning associations, the cultural exchanges that take place all the time between Kent and between Northern Europe will continue as well. So I think this exhibition is a great, falling as it does at the start of this process of our Brexit negotiations and at the start of the triennial, should provoke us to think about the way we want to be Europeans in the future, not as members of the European Union, but as a European country working alongside other European countries, but independent, with our Parliament being sovereign once again. But it's that future relationship is not one that will be negotiated in Brussels. It's one that will be created by the British people in the way in which we engage personally and individually with people in Europe, through mutual interest in food, drink, art, travel, and commercial exchange. So I think it's once again, Bryony, a brilliant exhibition, incredibly timely, incredibly thought-provoking, and incredibly well presented. And thank you very much for inviting me to be with you for this launch evening.